What's up?
Howdy, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to Wrestle Recap. My name is Justin Tate.
My name is Michelle Tate.
That's right. We are the only brother-sister duo carrying you with us on this journey of wrestling throughout the decades, pay-per-view by pay-per-view.
Yeah, and we have a real great time doing it. But Justin, we got to talk some current wrestling.
Let's do some current wrestling.
Like, not a whole lot happened this week, but this is a reminder that the Mr. McMahon documentary is coming out September 25th on Netflix.
I'm excited
to watch it. I'm so excited. Cannot wait. I think we should take off work.
Oh, okay. Let's so not do a podcast that day. And no. Another thing I wanted to point out too that kind of ties in with that. Now, I don't believe this has been confirmed yet, but the rumors are out there that Jesse Ventura, who recently signed a new Legends deal with the WWE, will be doing commentary on a special episode of Saturday night's main event coming up later this year. How about that?
Well, that's pretty cool. Is Gorilla alive?
No, sadly, no.
Okay, I didn't think so. I was like, he was kind of older back then.
Yeah.
So really the only thing notable I have from this week, but maybe it's not notable to most, but it just kind of has to do with my favorite female wrestler of all time, Alexa Bliss.
Uh-oh.
So there was like a vignette on Raw, and you know, it was Wyatt 6 and there was a QR code. And if you go to that QR code, it takes you to this funky, like retro looking website, which that's a weird thing to say, a retro website. Like that's kind of an oxymoron, right? But it read, okay, let me get this right. When she, in all caps, speaks, mountains should tremble. It's waiting for her. I can only open the door. She must choose to walk through. So they're waiting on some female to come through and help lead them. And I can't think of another wrestler it would be other than Alexa. Can you?
I think I've got it. I think I've got it.
Oh, okay.
The door is referring to the Forbidden Door, and they're bringing over Toni Storm.
Yes. Oh my God, she would be perfect. She would be. I love everything she does. But if it is Alexa, are you excited to have her back?
Love Alexa. Yeah, she's great, and it's been too long. I mean, obviously she's gotten pregnant and had a child since the last time that we saw her. So yeah, it's been way too long since we've seen her. I hope it comes true. I'd love to see her again.
Yeah, I saw another thing on her Twitter, and I didn't catch the date. I felt like it was from March of this year. It could have been March of last year. I don't know, where she had skin cancer on her face. And so maybe that also delayed it. But she's my favorite female wrestler of all time. I love Alexa, both in the ring, her look, and we're like the exact same age. And I think she had NSYNC at her wedding because Ryan Cabrera got them there, and she loves all the things that I love. And so,
wow.
I guess that's just why I love her so much. But yeah, she did like the whole dance. She did the whole bye, bye, bye dance with them at her wedding reception. So
very cool.
Pretty cool. Of course, Justin Timberlake didn't go because he's Justin Timberlake. But
NSYNC, what was that?
Exactly. And I'm like, didn't you get a DWI, dude? But all right, Justin. We are jumping a year forward, and we are going back to not 1987.
No, we're done with that.
We're done. We're going back to 1998, or no, 1988.
Don't go forward that far. Turn the dial on the time machine back 10 years because we got to go to 1988.
Let's go. We're going.
There it is.
There it is, Justin. And we have arrived at the NWA Bunkhouse Stampede again in 1988. So this show took place on January 24th, 1988. How many times can I say 1988 in one podcast?
I don't know, but next year, if you say it a whole lot, then a lot of Taylor Swift fans will really start following us because you'll be saying 1989 over and over and over.
Wapa. Wasn't there like a Bowling for Soup song or some emo early 2000s band that also did a 1985?
I think that was 85. 80, yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
we did a Starcade about that one way back, and WrestleMania and Wrestling Classic, I think. Yeah.
I believe so. Man, all these, it's crazy how all these, now I know all these shows and what year they happened, and like, I'm just this fountain of knowledge right now. But anyway, the venue, it was Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum Coliseum in Uniondale, New York. And now we've already seen this arena here on Wrestle Recap before, as it hosted the New York portion of WrestleMania 2. Cool. The attendance was 6,000, and our commentators were the lovely Jim Ross and Bob Caudle.
Yeah, a bit of a change there, because we've seen the commentary kind of shift almost every single NWA pay-per-view. It's been some sort of different combination. So I don't think we've seen Jim Ross and Bob Caudle so far. Could be a fun time.
It is fun. I think I liked the combination of Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone better than Bob Caudle, but I'll explain that later. We got stuff to talk about there. But yeah, the number one song in the U.S. on this day, I read it and I was like, I don't know that song, but then I heard it. So here you go, Justin.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yes, we have Need You Tonight by In
Excess.
In Excess. Oh, yeah. Is it like In Excess? Like,
yeah.
Mind blown, brother. Mind blown. So I thought this was kind of cool too. So the top toy in 1988, do you have any guesses?
I was going to say the koosh ball, but I think it's too early for that. So I will go with a stick.
Bro, when you said koosh ball, I could smell that.
Right?
Like, I could smell it right when you said it. No, it was the Nintendo Entertainment System, even though it came out in 1985.
Wow.
3 years later, it is still the top toy.
I can see that. I think it was around 88 or so when I got my first Nintendo, right around there. So yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder how much it cost and how much it came down in those 3 years for us normal poor people.
Right.
But yeah, well, that's all I got for that. Do you want to give us some background on the show?
Yeah, let's do it. Now, of course, we're talking about Bunkhouse Stampede. It was the only Bunkhouse Stampede pay-per-view, although the match had been done many times before this. However, this particular show was plagued with problems, to say the least. To start off with, there was a dark match, which was Jimmy Garvin and Sting versus the Sheep Herders, who would later be known as the Bushwhackers in the WWF. Now, the originally advertised match was the Sheep Herders versus the Rock and Roll Express. And no reason was given on TV for the change, but in reality, the Rock and Roll Express had left the company and they didn't tell the fans.
Oh man, they didn't tell them, but hold up. Why did Sting have a pre-show match? Like, that's unacceptable. That's so rude.
You know what? I cannot tell you, but I bet it was good. And I bet that his rat tail was on point. Yeah.
Well,
also
crazy.
For this show, the tickets that were printed for the show had a start time of 7:30 on them, but the show started at 6:30. Which caused a lot of fans to be late to the show. And you can kind of see that when you watch. A lot of people kind of walking around in the beginning.
That is unacceptable as well.
Yeah. And just like our previous two recaps, where the WWF scheduled Survivor Series on the same night as NWA Starrcade, WWF scheduled the first ever Royal Rumble to air on the USA Network on the same night as this show. So they're still trying to eat up the NWA's market.
Man, and they're still doing it today.
Yeah.
Not NWA, but AW.
Yeah. Well, you want to do some wrestle stats?
You mean some?
Yeah, some of those. Yeah. Some of those. Yeah, so on this show, there's only 4 matches, and that means only 14 wrestlers competing on this show. Out of them, 9 of them are still alive today. That's over 64%. Really, really good.
Wow.
Yeah. Out of all the NWA pay-per-views so far, that's 83 wrestlers, 48 of which are still alive today. And out of all the pay-per-views, WWF and NWA, 162 wrestlers, 91 of which are still alive today, for a percentage of just over 56%. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still standing
That's
in 1988.
Right. Now, fortunately, every single wrestler that we see on this pay-per-view, we're going to see again on some other pay-per-view. So this isn't the last one for anybody. This is, however, the final and only appearance of the NWA Western States Heritage Championship. And we'll get into that championship a little bit later on, kind of tell you what that's all about. But, Michelle, let's get into the show.
Let's do so. Very, very first thing, right when it starts, we have a wrestler entrance, which I was like, this is kind of fun. I like how they're doing this. And it's dark with like pink and purple and green lights strobing everywhere. And we see Nikita Koloff entering the arena. But then we go to commentary, which was a little strange. And they're not talking about Nikita or the wrestler that is entering the ring. So that was a little weird to me. It's Bob Caudle and Jim Ross, and they tell us that there are 3 championships on the line tonight, as well as the $500,000 for the winner of the Bunkhouse Stampede finals match. So then we toss it over to our ring announcer, Tony Schiavone, and like, whoa. Someone grew a mullet.
Oh my God. They have a side shot of him, and with the mullet you can see in the back and the mustache you can see in the front. I mean, the only way it could be weirder is if he had the mullet in the front and the mustache in the back.
Hey, I mean, like with Animal and Hawk, maybe it could happen one day.
There you go. He could be, let's see, we have Animal, we have Hawk, and he could be Goose. I don't know.
Goose. But yeah, I fully, so I'm a little disappointed in this show. I fully expected them to end or open the show with the cowboy and do the whole talk about the Bunkhouse Stampede. Because remember, it was on like Starrcade 86 or 87 where we had that whole segment with the disappearing coffee cup and the music. Like, I was kind of sad we didn't get to see that again.
That was kind of cool. I remember liking that it was weird, but I didn't hate it. So
yeah, and I remember he talked about the Bunkhouse Stampede, but no one really knew what it was yet.
Right.
And so we were just super confused at what was happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. Let's get into the first match.
All right, first match. It's a singles match for the NWA World Television Championship. Bobby Eaton with Jim Cornette versus Nikita Koloff, who was the World Television Champion at the time. Speaking of that championship, this is the 4th time we've seen this title defended on pay-per-view. The last time was on NWA Starrcade 1987, so not too long ago. And we've seen both of these guys as recently as Starrcade 1987. As we get into the match, Nikita Koloff's weight is announced in kilos, which is kind of fun. Kind of like when Drew McIntyre's weight was announced in stones. Or maybe that was the Highlanders. Maybe they did it for both. If they had to announce your weight in something other than pounds, what would you want them to announce it in?
Oh my God. It'd probably be like in, I'd like to do it in Peeps, Marshmallow Peeps, because those are like some of my favorite things ever. And man, I'd be like 5,000 Peeps though, because marshmallows don't weigh much. What would yours be?
I think I'm going to go the food route as well and say Wonka Nerds. Because that would be like millions of nerds, I would think. I don't know.
I love nerds.
Right.
And I like the gummy cluster nerds.
Oh my God. Really those are so addictive. It's dangerous.
Yeah. They hurt my teeth though, a little bit.
Really?
Like, I don't know. I feel like they get too down deep in my teeth.
Well, the ringside area here is well lit, but further back, the crowd is lit in blue. And I think we see a little bit of red back there. Very dark back there. I don't know if that was an artistic choice or if they were just trying to show, hey, our crowd isn't as big as WrestleMania and Survivor Series. Not sure which it was. But another thing that I noticed ringside, there's these tables ringside that are facing the hard cam. Who was sitting there? Because I could see Bob and Jim doing commentary down there, and I could see Tony in between matches when he's not ring announcer. But I think I also saw other referees on the show. Who else was down there? I don't even know.
So I swear I saw JJ Dillon sitting down there. And at first I thought, it's very funny. I actually thought it was just like a random old man in a brown suit. And I was very distracted because because I thought it was a cardboard cutout because the way he was sitting, it looked like a 2D like figure.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was waiting for that old man to move. And I was like, that is a cardboard cutout. And then finally he talked. And then later when we saw JJ Dillon in the ring, I was like, that's the suit guy. But I just couldn't tell because it was so far off camera. So yeah, I don't know if they got like managers and whomever to come down and like help fill the arena. I don't know.
That's funny. I just realized something too. On commentary, we have Bob and Jim, and in the ring, we have Bobby and Jim. So that can be a little bit confusing. But anyway, it's funny how times change. So before the match gets actually started, Jim Cornette and Bobby Eaton, they give each other a hug, and the crowd boos. They're like, oh, boo. And then they look around, they do it again, just to get a little bit more boos, of course. And it's so funny because decades later, the best friends, Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, that was like the highlight of their matches was when they would give each other a big hug and everybody would go nuts. Funny how that changes.
I thought it was funny when they were having the hug fest. I was like, why are they booing? I thought it was just because they don't like Jim Cornette. That was mine. But have you noticed the evolution of Jim's tennis racket? Like it started off gold and then it became like covered in red sequins. And now it has like this feathery red fluffy around the edge. And I'm like, I feel like you're going backwards. I feel like gold should surpass like this crappy Hobby Lobby trim you got going on, Jim.
Yeah, little glue gun, little bedazzler, you know, never hurt anything. But can we talk, as we're talking about attire and everything, Bobby's tights? Okay, now this reminded me of something, and I want to see if it reminded you of the same thing. So tell them about his tights. Okay.
I really hope we're on the same page on this. So the front half of these tights, they were bright pink. In the back half, it was like a neon green. Like I'll post a photo of these tights on our Twitter account. Okay, what did it make you think of? Because if it's the same thing as me, I'm going to be so excited.
Okay, it made me think of that thing that we had when we were kids, where there was 2 Velcro paddles. You'd each put one on your hand, and there was a tennis ball. And it was those same colors of pink and green, and you could catch them on the Velcro pad.
Okay, that isn't what I was thinking of, but I can see that because, yeah, they were pink and neon green. And what was the point of those? And what were they called? Because it's like you could just catch them. I don't know.
We could probably find a picture of them. I don't know.
Yeah, it was harder to catch with that. It was like a paper plate.
Yeah, like once all the fuzz came off of the tennis ball, it didn't stick to the pads anymore.
Right. Okay. So that's not what I thought of with Bobby's pants.
Okay.
It made me really, really want the watermelon Bubblicious gum that was like 2 different colors.
Right.
And like I started drooling even thinking about it because you just put it in your mouth and it was like, blah.
So technically you could say that you started drooling while watching Bobby Eaton.
I mean, I guess, but I do think it's funny. We both had very 90s references for
right. Well, and if you look at this show, more 80s, 90s feel good. One ringside cameraman wearing red framed sunglasses throughout the night, even when he's looking through the camera lens. Very, very 80s cool there. I like that.
Oh, yeah, I like that too. I love sunglasses inside. I know a lot of people are like, oh, what a douche. But like my eyes are just sensitive. I would wear sunglasses all the time inside if I didn't look like a douche.
So the thing that I told my wife is that if you're in an airport and you're wearing sunglasses, you're either blind or an asshole. It's the only 2 excuses.
I thought you were going to say famous. No, Justin, if you go to like the Las Vegas airport, everyone has sunglasses because everyone is either high or hungover.
That's true.
So there you go.
But would that could fall into asshole though? Like if you didn't know your own weakness, you know, I don't know.
That's true. Or you could just be like 21.
That too.
Right. Well, I noticed that, I'm noticing so many things about looks, I know, but Nikita's skin was peeling really badly, like for a sunburn. And I bet that's something that he never thought anyone would ever be able to see on TV. Because this was in 1988, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking that during a later match too, like how much more you could see, even though this wasn't shot in high def, our TVs are better, the transmission is better. It's an interesting thing to think about. Speaking of tech issues, we had one little flub here. We're seeing the action in the ring, but I guess there was a ringside microphone that was hot, and I don't know if it's supposed to be or not, because you can hear Jim Cornette say to a cameraman, "Would you quit following me?" It's great.
So, was that not a kayfabe moment?
It was. I think it was. Yeah.
Okay, because like I had noticed Jim was talking all kinds of smack to Nikita, and I heard this, but like I thought it was just part of the gimmick, and like I even noted it because it made me laugh so hard. So are you saying that he actually was like pissed off at the cameraman and was like, "Would you quit following me?"
No. I'm saying that he was just saying that as
okay.
Yeah.
It was loud and it was very funny.
Yeah, it was, because you couldn't even see him say it. It just came out of nowhere. It was really funny.
Right.
So, you know, speaking of Cornette, we talked about this on a recent show. I can't remember what match, but I love when managers give actual advice to their wrestlers. And that's what Cornette was doing here with Bobby Eaton. It wasn't a bunch of come on, come on. It was telling him things to do with the moves, cinch it in a little bit more, lean on that arm. I love that.
Yeah, they really need to bring that back.
Yeah, definitely.
They really
Definitely.
do.
And
Yeah.
it's not that Bobby Eaton needed the help because he's so good. Like every punch looks good. Every move is just like so tight. There's no daylight in there. Everything he doesn't miss.
Yeah, yeah, and his selling, it's all great. And like, did you know that he debuted in professional wrestling when he was 17?
That's nuts.
Like, he didn't just start like, oh, playing around the backyard. Like, that's when he debuted. So
Yeah.
that's crazy to me.
Wow.
17, like, man, I'm not even half as accomplished as Bobby Eaton was at 17.
You still got time. You still got time.
Why do you think I'm on this podcast, Justin?
Oh, true. So no mats on the outside. We noted this on a previous Starrcade, I believe. And that might be why the crowd is kind of quiet during this match until the match goes to the outside. And then they're all of a sudden really into it.
Well, no, they just were finally showing up because they didn't know the show started at 6:30, and that's why. But speaking of the outside of the ring, did you notice there was a cop sitting in a chair? And it wasn't like arena security, because later I think arena security had like orange shirts on. Like, it was a cop, but man, dude looked terrified. Like, anytime a wrestler came within like 20 feet, or even if they got out of the ring, he would like flinch and scoot back and run out of his chair. I was like, what are you so afraid of, man? Did you see him?
I did see him. It made me wonder, like, what if he had been there when it was a match with like Bruiser Brody or the Sheik or somebody actually terrifying? That would have been hilarious to watch, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lots of submission holds in this match, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was a lot. And we'll see why as we get to the finish of this match. But most of the final 5 or so minutes of this match were submission holds.
Yeah, I noted that. And like, with all of the holds, it really didn't get super exciting until like the last 3 minutes or so of the match, because, you know, you had them announcing like 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left. And the last 30 seconds especially were exciting. But yeah, those holds, I don't know. The last couple of pay-per-views we watched, I've become not a fan of holds, because I feel like, I don't know, maybe they just needed to breathe, but it really slows down the pacing.
Yeah, and you don't see a whole lot of that today. I mean, you do see submission holds, but they aren't held in as long. And it's almost like we all have TikTok brain now, right? We need a new thing constantly. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Finally, Tony announces that there are 45 seconds left in the match. And then that's when Nikita breaks out of the submission hold, starts a comeback. Unfortunately, Tony starts counting down from 10, and Nikita goes for a pin with 1 second left in the match. Match ends in a time limit draw in 20 minutes. Now, post-match, Jim Cornette runs in with a tennis racket, which Nikita grabs, but he loses it to Bobby. Sweet Stan Lane runs down, Bobby's partner in the Midnight Express, to hold Nikita up for a shot from the tennis racket. And it was funny because Cornette throws the referee away, and then the referee, I guess, was supposed to hold Jim back, but just didn't. So Jim had to like kind of fall into him and kind of hold me back, you know. But Nikita's thrown out of the ring. Tony announces the time limit draw. How'd you feel about this one?
It was, you know, while I was watching, I thought, this is a fine match. It wasn't bad. It wasn't boring, but it wasn't anything to write home about, as some old people say. What did you think?
Yeah, again, fine, especially for the era. You know, sometimes you have to turn off your modern brain and watch these things. And when you do, it's quite fun. And I thought they had a fine match. Maybe people who are steeped in wrestling today and just became a fan in the past couple of years would watch this and think it was a snooze fest. But I liked it. No,
I liked it. The next match coming up, that was my favorite of the whole, but
okay, well, we briefly go back to Bob Caudle and Jim Ross, and while they're talking, referee for the next match, Dick Kroll, walks into the shot right between the camera and the commentators. And you can even see Jim Ross give a quick glance at him, just a real quick shift of his eyes, as if he's thinking, we're live, pal.
Yeah, this is the first like snafu of many for the commentary section.
Yeah.
Because and it was really funny. And I don't even know if the ref like even noticed that he did that.
How could you not? Like, there's two guys in tuxedos, a camera in front of them. I'm sure lights on the camera. Like, how could you think that was an okay place to walk?
I have no idea.
And later on in the show, there's an old man in a blue cap who walks through twice.
But at the same time, they probably should have had someone like
holding them away.
Or put like some tape around them or something. Like, you got to, I mean, people are stupid, Justin. Like, we have to dummy proof this world.
Oh, believe me, I'm aware. I am aware. Let's get on to this next match. It's another championship match.
Yes, it is a singles match with Barry Windham, who is our champion, versus Larry Zbyszko with Baby Doll. And this is for the NWA Western States Heritage Championship. So this is the first and only time we will see this title defended on a pay-per-view. For me, myself, I was like, I've never heard of this in my life. Now I know why. The title was created as a tribute to the Western States Heavyweight Championship, which was the main championship used in the Amarillo territory.
Right.
Only two people held this title. Do you want to guess who the two are? It was Barry Windham and, spoiler alert, Larry Zbyszko. Yeah. Well, both of these guys we saw at NWA Starrcade in 1987, so we've already talked about them. But let's talk about Baby Doll a little bit. You know, she comes out with Larry, and man, Justin, she is a happening, as Gorilla would say.
She was a happening. She came out, I was like, all right, Baby Doll, I see you.
Yeah, so I was just like really curious about her because, you know, we don't have a bio or anything on her. So I just started Googling her, found out she was born in Lubbock, like 2 hours north of us. Pretty cool. So in the summer of 1984, so like just 4 years before this, she was training to become an EMT, like working an ambulance, you know, and she overheard her parents talking about her childhood crush, which was world-class championship wrestling wrestler Gino Hernandez.
Oh, all the ladies love Gino.
Oh, yeah. And apparently the parents were saying how he needed a valet, which I'm like, obviously you were connected to the business somehow if you knew that he needed a valet. But anyway, without her parents even knowing, freaking Baby Doll just contacted David Manning, the WCCW booker, and proposed that she should manage Hernandez. And Manning agreed. And so Roberts left college, went to San Antonio, making her debut alongside Hernandez in the sold-out Freeman Coliseum.
How about that? That's pretty cool.
You talk about going to and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just want to point out that I love how she contacted this big promotion, was like, I should manage this big fancy wrestler. And they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can get out of life if you just ask. Like some of the coolest stuff I've ever done, I just asked.
Yeah, but like I feel like that was back in the day, because now if I called up WWE and was like, can I manage Cody Rhodes? They'd be like, are you nuts? Or even if I wanted to manage someone like Mid, they wouldn't let me.
Right. Well, yeah. I guess there are exceptions. Yeah.
But anyway, I liked her story, but I did realize in this match that Larry Zbyszko in this era, he resembles Jim Belushi. Not John, Jim.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. He needs his own sitcom, The World According to Larry.
Well, I was just thinking of Curly Sue. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, I don't know that I ever saw it, but I remember it, yeah.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, well, as a kid, I loved it, and I thought it was so sweet, and I watched it recently as an adult. It is so messed up. This man basically kidnapped this child and raised her on his own because they were both homeless. And, like, he's a terrible parent, but he thinks he's a good parent. Oh, it's terrible.
Huh. It's weird how movies change when you get older and go, oh, boy. Why did I like
Never
her?
Been Kissed. Like when the teacher falls in love with her and we thought it was so sweet, and now we're like, he thought it was a student.
That's weird. That's another one I didn't see, and I don't believe I will be seeing it. I don't know if you noticed this, but at the beginning of the match and the end of the match, when they had the lower third showing Larry Zbyszko's name, they misspelled it.
Oh.
Which, I mean, let's be honest, it is a hard name to spell. Every time I have to type it, I have to look and make sure I'm doing it right. Also, another thought, if Scrabble allowed proper names, Zbyszko would be a game ender. Look at that. He's got 2 Z's and there's a K in there. And what else is high priced in Scrabble? I don't know.
Yeah, you're right, though. But it's true. Every time I type his name, it's like I have to Z. Like, it's not a quick type.
And you can't ask your phone, because who knows what you get.
Right? Well, hey, Barry Windham coming out with the black leather pants, the chaps, and the blonde hair, and even his walk. It reminded me so much of Hangman Adam Page. Like, there's no way Hangman didn't draw inspiration from him.
I put this same exact note. If you just blurred out his face, it was Hangman coming down the aisle. That was crazy.
Oh, yeah. And Baby Doll, she's talking mad-ish to Barry. She's poking him in the chest. And I think it was Bob. It could have been JR, but I think it was Bob. He says he needs to poke her in the chest. See how she likes it. Oh.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there was quite a bit of it exposed, so maybe I can't excuse it. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, we were talking about if people now who just recently became a fan watched wrestling back then, how it might be kind of boring to them. I think it's because I noticed in this match, there's very little showboating to the crowd. It's just wrestling. And I kind of liked it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And especially when we're seeing a lot on the WWF side that's about spectacle and characters and showmanship and everything, it could be easy to forget that this match is closer to what wrestling always was, which was just two guys trying to out wrestle each other. But you know what was showboating, actually? The clock at the top of the crowd, sponsored by Winston Cigarettes.
Okay, was that a cigarette brand?
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't know. I thought it was, but I was like, maybe it's just like the name of the arena because I didn't catch the name of the arena. So yeah, we had Marlboro and now we have Winston.
Yeah, so we're just collecting them all.
Right. Well, Justin, we had our first table spot. Kinda,
yeah.
So like first, they just kind of like knocked the table over. Like he kind of hit his head on the table and the table kind of fell over. And later, Barry is full on laying on the table. And I was waiting for it. And I was like, this is it. And then he just kind of got up and walked away. It's almost like Larry chickened out or something.
Yeah. Well, and if you looked at that table, like it wasn't one of those that we see now that get broken week after week and somehow people are still entertained by it. But it was like one of those thick actual wood tables. And I was thinking, oh my God, if they're going to break through this, like that's going to take a lot. But no, he just needed a quick snooze and got right back up. And that was it. I also saw when they were showing all this out here, the other referee is sitting out there, which is so odd to see. Like instead of going to the back on matches that he's not refereeing, they just have him sitting out there. It's so strange.
I guess it was just, I don't know. To me, that seems kind of like one of those things that they're just trying anything just to be different from WWF. Maybe. I don't know. You did mention once that to me, the 80s crowds loved nut shots. They love when people got hit in the balls. Well, at one point, Barry gets Larry and he rams his balls into the ring post. And oh my God, they showed this woman. She had a mullet and a Michigan sweater in the crowd. And she looked like a crazy person. She was laughing maniacally. And It was hysterical. You got to go back and see it because, man, he got hit in the nuts. I mean, she was like,
oh, wow. I didn't notice that. I did not notice. Also, a thing that pleases the crowd, when Barry Windham got up in the corner to do the 10 punches to Larry's head, and he only did 6.
Hey, you know what? Barry can do whatever Barry wants.
Well, you know why he stopped at 6?
Bye.
Well, he grew up in Sweetwater. That's as far as they could go.
Bro, I was totally going to make a joke like that, but I was like, these people don't know Sweetwater.
Believe us, it's no joke. It's no joke.
It's not. It's not at all. Oh, gosh, that's really funny. Well, the ref gets taken out and Baby Doll hands Larry one of her high heels and he hit Barry with it, who then gets pinned. And I was like, dude, it's Mariah May and Tony Storm, only not as bloody. But the whole like, watch for the shoe, like that's what it was.
Well, and what was really good, because I didn't quite see it the first time around, but then they showed a replay of it a couple of times throughout the night. And it was perfectly done if you watch it, because I mean, she slides Larry that shoe. No way the ref could have seen it. Larry hits Barry with the shoe, and then as he's going for the pin, he's hiding it behind his own leg, and then the 3 gets counted, and he leans toward Baby Doll and just kind of slips it to her, and it's back on her foot. Really well done.
It was well done. I didn't even catch it until they showed it in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was my favorite match of the entire night. I loved it. Like I thought the first one was good, but then I saw this one. I was like, oh yeah, this one was way better. But Larry Zbyszko won that match cheating with that shoe, and he got the championship in just 19 minutes and 16 seconds.
Go Larry. Go Larry.
Except we'll never see this championship again. So sorry, Larry.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. But again, like you asked about one of the previous belts that we talked about that have been retired, I want to know where the actual physical belt is. I want to know who has it, or if it's just in a heap somewhere in a dump in, Omaha.
Maybe
I don't know.
Larry and Barry just cut it in half, and they're like, "Here, it's like a friendship belt. We can put the pieces together."
Could be. That's very cute. That's very cute.
Yes.
Well, we go straight into our next match, which is for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The champion, Ric Flair, versus Road Warrior Hawk, which is interesting to see since you're used to the Road Warriors as a tag team. Now, this is the 6th time that we've seen this title defended on pay-per-view. The last time, of course, NWA Starrcade 1987, which we just covered a couple of weeks ago. And we saw both of these guys last on Starrcade 1987. Now, I will tell you this. If you haven't watched the show yet and you're going to watch it on Peacock, you'll see that we joined this match already in progress. We get some verbiage on the bottom of the screen saying that due to technical difficulties, this match is presented in the most complete form as possible, which I'm guessing means the tapes that are in existence of this are kind of messed up, which is sad, but
it is sad. They should have backed that up in 93 or whenever we got hard drives.
Right. Just on about 20,000 floppy disks.
There you go.
Yeah, it would work. Now, the one thing to watch for throughout this match, if you do go back and watch it, Ric Flair's selling in this match. It's almost like, he was always great at selling, but it's almost like he was selling more just to dash any thoughts of Hawk not being big enough or famous enough to win the championship. I'm sure there were some people going, oh, well, he's part of a tag team. He's not going to win the world championship. Flair will make you think there's a very good chance of it.
Yeah, his selling's always great. And I noted it here because he was just on point, freaking on point. And you're right, because I thought, I was like, why is he fighting Hawk? This is a waste of time. And then I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, he really sold it well. Speaking of Flair selling, we get the famous Flair flop, which I think might be the first time we've seen it on pay-per-view, maybe one other time. But for those of you who don't know what the Flair flop is, he typically takes a few steps out of the corner and then just flops straight down onto his face and belly.
Yeah, I tried to Google if it was the first one or not, but I just got a bunch of compilation videos of Flair's botches over the years. Man, Flair flopped. So it didn't work.
Well, on the outside, J.J. Dillon, who's come out there with Ric Flair, and we should say Paul Ellering is out there with Hawk. But J.J. Dillon, he's pacing slowly out there with his hands in his pockets, and it's almost as if he's coming up with the plan. This isn't going the way you thought. He has to think of something new. And it's much different from most of the managers we see, but I really liked it a lot because JJ was known as this scheming mastermind behind the Four Horsemen. And to see him going through these thoughts in his head, I thought it worked just as effectively as if he were shouting things at Flair.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want managers to have more of a not even a bigger role on TV, but actually convince us that they have a role in these people's careers. I need Prince Nana telling Swerve what to do. Right. That would be fun.
But he does it through the magic of interpretive dance.
Oh, that's true. Or he just goes, whose house? He's very loud. I don't know how he's that loud, but Hawk, he looks massive here.
Oh my God.
We were talking about how I thought there's no way Hawk's going to win this, but he is absolutely dominating the first 30-40% of this match. He is throwing Flair all over the ring and he just looks like a rag doll.
Oh, it's great. And and Ric Flair wasn't small. He had a pretty good body in this era, but to see him just get thrown across the ring and he's laying there doing his whole, oh God.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it. I don't know why. I've learned that I don't like his in-ring whining, I guess. He's just, there's something about it. It sounds like he's on the toilet and he needs to go really bad. I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable.
Well, on the outside, Hawk picks up the wooden stairs and launches them at Ric Flair, who escaped around the corner of the ring. That was terrifying.
Yeah. And you and I are totally related because I came here to say the same thing. It scared me. And either Flair sold it that well or he really was shocked and like Hawk just got into it. Was like, I'm going to throw these stairs at you.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like the wooden stairs weigh 1,000 pounds, but if you see those flying at your head or any part of your body, that's scary. That's some scary stuff.
Flair kind of looked at him like, WTF, man.
Yeah. Well, they finally get back in the ring and Flair's selling just continues, but it's getting like even bigger. Like I'm starting to wonder if he's giving birth in the ring because of all of his vocalizations, but it's so good. Like he has to make us think that there is a chance he's losing this belt tonight. The match then goes to the outside again where Flair is thrown head first into the ring post. Unfortunately, the camera followed Rick to the floor where he was furiously doing something to his forehead. Maybe he just had a really bad itch, little mosquito bite up there. And somehow he scratched so hard that he came up very bloody. How about that?
How about that? These cameramen, they kind of killed me on this show, but more later. Finally, we go to the finish, kind of. It was more of a faux finish, but Hawk actually pins Rick, but the ref is down for the count, shall I say. Woohoo. Get it? Down for the count, but he's actually down. Like he can't get up and count. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So he was out and it was like Rick knew the ref couldn't count the pinfall because that whole time he just stares directly into the camera while he's being pinned. And it was uncomfortable, but I kind of liked it. Right.
It's a lot better than the whole looking up thing you see now to look at the ref, like doing the count. But, we'll get into it later on in WCW land. There's one referee who did something like so stupid every time, but that's for later. That's for another episode.
Later.
Finally, we go to the finish. Ref is down from the ref bump, like you said. Ric Flair whacks Hawk with a chair that he got from J.J. Dillon. The ref comes to, counts a pin on Hawk, but Hawk kicks out. And everybody's like, oh my God, he kicked out of a chair shot, and he's been kicking Ric Flair's ass this whole time. We're going to see a new champion. Rick, though, finally had enough and hits Hawk with the chair again right in front of the referee, causing the DQ, and Rick immediately leaves the ring. Road Warrior Hawk wins the match by disqualification, but Ric Flair retains his championship in 21 minutes and 39 seconds. What'd you think?
I hate DQs. It's so unfinal. It's so not final, but I understand why they did it, because if Rick would have turned around and won that match fair and square, I would have been like, no, you got your butt kicked the entire time. And this guy is massive compared to you. Yeah. What do you think of it?
I agree. It was almost the only out. The way that the match was structured. I mean, Flair and he did have his highlights during the match where he was using some of his dirty tactics and being a better technical wrestler than Hawk was. Hawk was more of a power guy. So what do you do against a power guy? Well, you do things he can't do. That said, I think that they were telling us what we already knew, which was if Flair hadn't done that, he was losing his belt that night.
Right. I didn't even think about that. Like he did it on purpose to like not lose, which I feel like someone did that recently, like in WWE or AEW. Can't remember. But yeah, I mean, now that you explain it that way, okay, I'm a little more okay with it.
All right. Well, during the replay of the finish, you can hear the crew putting up the cage for the main event. But what else do you hear here? Okay. You hear a crew guy asking Bob Caudle and Jim Ross, who are not on camera. He says, I lost my headset. Are you guys doing it on camera here? And then there's a few seconds of silence. And then you just hear shit. And then we see Bob and Jim.
I did not hear that, and I have to go back and listen because I totally missed that.
Oh, it's so great. You have to be listening for it. But yeah, he apparently was very unprepared. But we do go back to Bob and Jim, where the old guy in the blue cap passes by the camera. Unexplainable and unacceptable. This begins several minutes of killing time so the cage can be put together for the main event. They mention how many people it takes to put this show together, and then we see the on-screen credits, but Bob Caudle reads each and every one of them out loud. It's a nice touch, but kind of a momentum killer.
No, it wasn't a nice touch, Justin. It was so boring and it was so slow. Like he should have had some energy or something, but it's like a name would pop up and he'd read it. 20 seconds later, a new name, read it. I was like, oh, and like there was so much awkward awkwardness between this. Like,
I think he went through the
it.
whole Crockett family tree during those. It was all over the place. But we go back to Bob and Jim. They explain the rules of the Bunkhouse Stampede. Basically, it's a battle royal in a cage. The only way to be eliminated is to be thrown to the floor, either through the door or over the top of the cage. And if you are trying to figure out the logistics of that, so are we, and so were they, to be quite honest. Now, the way we got to this match is that there were a series of Bunkhouse Stampede matches, and the winners of each got to compete in tonight's finals for $500,000. However, there were 3 people who also qualified for tonight's match, but did not appear. Okay, a wrestler by the name of Mighty Wilbur actually qualified this match, but he was injured, so he's out. And then Big Bubba Rogers, who we've seen before, and Dr. Death Steve Williams also qualified, but did not appear for some reason, and we never got the explanation why.
That is so weird. Now I want to go on Reddit and like try to figure out why, because that would never fly today. Like, we are so in touch with every other wrestling fan that we would all talk about and be like, we demand answers.
Right. And then there'd have to be a Twitter post, and then somebody saying, I'm fine. And then people saying, oh, but you're not really fine. We know because we're smart wrestling fans. And yeah.
Exactly. Well, they say right here that the cage is 12 to 14 feet high. And I was like, nah, man, I'm going to go with like 8 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
it was not very tall. Maybe when you include the ring apron, you get to 10, but yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, man, I've never seen so many awkward pauses on any sports commentary in my life, except for like maybe Tom Brady. Well, have you seen this?
I've heard something about how I'm a baseball guy. I don't know football, so enlighten me.
Well, I'm not even like a pro football person, but he came on and was talking during one of the college games, just like a little, hey, here's Tom Brady. He's going to be doing commentary now. Dude, it's bad. I heard he got better this past week because everyone was roasting him, but he'll be like, yes, the quarterback throws the football and he throws it well.
Oh boy.
And then just like stares into the camera, like smiling awkwardly. Like, I was like, oh, buddy.
Did Giselle get half of his brain too, or what happened?
Apparently it was terrible, Justin.
Well, finally, after many minutes of stalling, Bob and Jim toss to the main event. Take it away and take us home.
Yes, Justin. It is the Steel Cage Bunkhouse Stampede finals match. Again, pinfalls don't count. The only way to eliminate your opponent is by throwing him over the top of the cage or getting him through the door, pushing him onto the floor. I'm spitting some sweet rhymes today.
Ooh, look at you. You're MC Tater. MC Spud.
Tater. I like it. All right. Our participants are Arn Anderson, the Barbarian, Dusty Rhodes, Ivan Koloff, Lex Luger, Road Warrior Animal, Tully Blanchard, and the Warlord. So these are all the guys who have qualified. Let's see. Arn, Dusty, Lex, Animal, and Tully, we all saw at Starrcade 1987. The Barbarian, he skipped a year. We saw him last in 1986 on Starrcade. Now, the only guy we haven't seen before, and we haven't talked about him, is the Warlord. And he's got some funky hair, too. I almost thought his hair was shaped into a W, but it was just a big V.
Oh, that would be cool, though.
Yeah, but you missed an opportunity.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity. But anyway, Warlord, he was almost like Wardlow because he was so big. But he was born in March of 1962, and he's still alive today at the age of 62. Now, he debuted only 2 years before this in 1986. And guess what? His last match was in 2024 in Rochester, Minnesota at an indie show. So it may not even be his final match. I'd love to see what he looks like now because he was so big. Yeah. I wonder if he has a Twitter. I want to talk to him.
Well, if he doesn't, he at least has somebody pretending to be him on Twitter.
Oh, God. That's out of control, man. That weird fake psycho Sid, that guy's weird.
Yeah, like how bored are you?
But, I know. Well, anyway, he was discovered by Road Warrior Animal while working out at a gym that Animal owned. Warlord, he retired twice, but both were because of injuries from car accidents.
That's wild.
How unlucky. Luck. I know. So after wrestling, he became a bodyguard for celebrities like 50 Cent and Kimbo Slice.
How about that? You want to hear something funny?
Yes.
When I was a kid and the Warlord was on, I got the word warlord confused with landlord. And so I thought his whole gimmick was that like he owned property and people owed him money. And I didn't really understand how that was intimidating.
Like, I feel like that's so cerebral of you as a child to even like put that together.
I swear to God, I was like, wow, how's he a landlord? Like,
those are pretty scary, Justin.
That's true. That's true. I've had a couple nightmare landlords.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was something about how they filmed this match, or maybe it was just like I saw more of the venue with the entrances, but this venue kind of made it look like an indie show.
Yeah, and it's weird to think that that one portion of WrestleMania 2 was in this same venue because it just looks so completely different.
Yeah, it looks small and kind of crusty, like not super nice. I don't know, but Dusty comes out and I love his look here. He's wearing jeans, cowboy boots, and he's got a yellow tank top with like a backwards black baseball cap. Like he just looked like he was there to have fun. But
he's ready for a fight.
Yeah, not gonna lie though, Justin, it made me laugh because his titty was hanging out the side of that tank top for like 95% of the match.
My wife said the same thing. She goes, Dusty about to lose a titty.
Well, and like us women know, like you don't sleep in a tank top that's too big because you'll wake up and you're all discombobulated up in here. So
yeah. So you mentioned like what Dusty was wearing during the entrances and everything. I had a funny thought during the entrances of this match because there's like the smoke and the lights and they're all following each other out one after the other. If you go on Peacock and watch the entrances, pretend you're not watching a wrestling show, but instead a fashion show. With the lights and the smoke and each guy walking out after each other wearing a different thing. It's so funny to watch it with that mindset.
Yes, and they're like strutting their stuff and like turning I just smacked the wall. My bad. They're like turning around and showing off their I can see that, Justin.
They're on the runway, Dusty on the runway. I look good, baby. Look at me.
Here's my titty hanging out. All right, Justin. I got something to say about this match.
All right.
I feel there's a plot hole in this match, or I don't know. That's the best thing I can call it. Like, plot hole number one is just don't go up top. Like, and you get rid of one of the two ways to be eliminated. Like, don't take your opponent up there because he might get you out. Just don't climb up there. There you go.
The whole concept is kind of flawed, really. I mean, obviously there's no way to force somebody to climb up there. And then it's the fact that battle royals are usually just full of punches and kicks and forearms because there's no room to do anything cool. But adding a cage limits that action even more. So the first, half or so of this match, there's not a whole lot to do.
No, and it was funny because like I really just noticed Dusty, but I'm sure a lot of the guys were doing it. Dusty just had that bright yellow on. It's funny because if you look in the background, a lot of the guys are kind of just standing around. Yeah. Like, being like, oh God, oh, I hurt because they didn't know what to do. But the cameramen were driving me nuts in this match. They were missing all of the action. Like I'd be seeing these huge moves in the background, but they're just like zoomed in on Ivan Koloff's face.
And they did that twice when he was just sitting on his butt looking around like, what now? What now? Do I have time to go get a hot dog or no? Okay. No. All right. But, talk about the camera work on this. On one of the recent cage matches that we watched, you had mentioned that the camera work was annoying because the cameramen were trying to shoot through the cage. And I had said that I think that they cut holes in the cage for cameras and that sort of thing. I noticed on SmackDown just a couple of weeks ago during the Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa championship match in a cage, the actual space between the wires of the cage is bigger now. It's not those small diamonds. The cage WWE uses now has like these bigger diamonds that are like kind of wider. So that helps out a lot too. You're looking at less wire on the long shots.
That makes so much sense. And like, why did it take like 40 years to realize that?
Right.
Well, I'd be so dang mad in this match. Like if I were in the match, because that ref kept shutting the door every time someone opened it. I'd be like, quit shutting that. I'm opening it and I'm going to get him through, dude.
Yeah.
I can't do it at the same time. Okay, let's talk about plot hole number 2 in this match, Justin.
Okay.
So Ivan uses like a belt to tie Dusty to the ropes. How does that help Ivan at all? The point is to eliminate people from the ring, not strap them to it.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other plot hole in this match and other elimination matches or battle royals or Royal Rumbles. Why interrupt an elimination? Like, why do that? Unless it's your tag team partner, which even then it's still questionable because it's every man for himself. Let them be eliminated or help eliminate them. And I'm glad that here recently commentary has started calling that out and like, well, why is he stopping him from being eliminated? It's a good thing because it's a big gap in this match as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like, the only thing I think of is if you hate a guy that much, you want to be the one to get the elimination. Yeah, that's weird. But speaking of Dusty and his arms and stuff, like what happened to it? Because it was just like dripping blood. And by the time the Barbarian went over and like chomped down on it with his teeth, it was already bloody. So like, did you see what happened?
I didn't see what happened, but I've noticed in these Dusty matches that we've watched in the past, he has a lot of blading scars on his upper left arm, which is what was bleeding here. And so it seems like that's a place he would bleed, you know, if it was a match like this where he might run into something or get hit with something. Only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, which I also noticed he has the vertical blading things in his forehead. I'd never seen that before, but they zoomed in on this one. Well, Ivan was our first elimination over the top, followed by Animal and Warlord, who both go through the door trying to eliminate each other.
Yeah. And you know what? I liked this elimination because they made a big deal on commentary how Animal had won a lot of these matches leading up to this event. So it made sense that in a way he kind of did it to himself in the act of trying to eliminate something rather than him just being so beaten down and unaware that he gets thrown out of the door. Kind of liked that excuse for the guy who's won a lot of them to not win this one.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Well, freaking Arn Anderson literally like walks himself out the door. Like he just kind of, he's trying to get, I forget, is it Lex or someone someone, and he's trying to get someone out and he just like steps out. He steps out and I say, how is he not eliminated? Like I'm yelling at the TV and Bob stammered and was like, his feet have to touch the floor. Yeah, that's the rule. But it was pointless anyway, because then Arn was pushed like 5 seconds later and he landed on the floor along with Tully and Lex at the same time. Now, for me personally, I would have preferred consistent single eliminations at a time versus a long time with no elimination than 2 guys out, 3 guys out. And that's just a personal preference. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why eliminations in something like the Royal Rumble are so spread out. Obviously, there's guys coming in every 2 minutes or so. But if it all happens at once, you got to have a reason for it or something you're building to. And this just kind of felt like, well, we got to get out because there's only supposed to be 2 guys left at this point.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the whole there's not a lot to do because of the cage and whatnot. So it felt like those stretches between eliminations, like not a lot was happening. So it kind of made the match drag a little bit. But Dusty is left with just the Barbarian, which it shocked me because I thought the Barbarian was going to be the first one to get eliminated. I really did. And, you know, they go up, they climb up the cage and Dusty, you know, throws him over the top after the Barbarian willingly climbed up there because why wouldn't you, right? But was the crowd booing at the end?
You know what? I thought I heard a little bit of that too. And I almost feel like maybe because it was too predictable that Dusty would win. I mean, I don't know that they were getting Dusty fatigue at this point because they did still cheer him. But you have to remember, he was the booker of the company at this point. And so it's hard for a booker who's also an active wrestler not to make themselves look really good.
Yeah, and I feel like if it would have been like Dusty and Lex, it wouldn't have been as predictable. But again, like with Barbarian, I was like, dude, I thought he was going to be the first one out. I thought he was like the throwaway of this match. But regardless, Dusty Rhodes wins the match in 26-21, and he got a giant boot and supposedly $500,000.
Where do you find a giant boot like that? Like I was trying to think, they surely didn't go to a trophy shop and say, we need a giant, like 2 or 3 foot tall boot. Maybe it was hanging out on the back lot of some studio. I have no idea.
You know where it came from? There's a mall in San Antonio and it has those big boots on the outside.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
North Star Mall. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That or it was like paper mache. They made it.
I was wondering if he like walked by a Western store and it was like just some decoration in the window. He's like, hey, look over there. And then went,
I need that boot. How much?
So call me crazy. I could see Tony Khan bringing this match back.
Oh, but it has so many plot holes.
It does. But I don't know. He brought back War Games. They call it Blood and Guts there because they have to. But, you know, he brought back War Games. He likes a lot of this old wrestling. I don't know. There's something about this match, maybe a tweak to the rules or something. I could see him bringing some form of this match back at some point.
I mean, I could definitely see it. Tony's a big wrestling fan and he likes, you know, giving nods to, you know, the history and the nostalgia. And I could definitely see it. And I think Darby would love to be thrown from the top of anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could totally see it.
True.
But yeah,
true.
That's the pay-per-view, Justin.
Yeah, that was really it. I mean, 4 matches and we're out. The whole thing, I think, if you watch it on Peacock, takes around 2 hours, maybe not even that long.
I think it's like an hour and 52 minutes or something like that.
Something like that. So let's get into what happened after this pay-per-view. Lex Luger, he would continue feuding with the Four Horsemen, eventually teaming with Barry Windham, who we also saw tonight, to win the tag team championships from Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. However, Barry Windham would later turn on Lex Luger and join the Four Horsemen. That turncoat.
Oh, Barry. Come on.
Larry Zbyszko, he would hold the Western States Championship for the rest of the year, but the title was vacated when Larry left the NWA later on in the year to return to the AWA, where he really came up. So that championship gone, only 2 title holders. Larry was the final one. Get this, Baby Doll, who we saw tonight, was fired from the NWA when her husband at the time, Sam Houston, left the company to join the WWF, and NWA saw that as a conflict of interest and fired her. That's got to be a lawsuit today.
I was about to say, that is so not legal. Like, how is that not a lawsuit then? Like, I feel like that's pretty cut and dry.
Well, old school wrestling doing questionably legal stuff.
Well, and I'm sure she didn't want to get like blackballed because if she creates a lawsuit, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that woman's crazy." Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Well,
sucks.
the Warlord and the Barbarian, they would form the tag team of the Powers of Pain and feud with the Road Warriors. So we have that to look forward to. Unfortunately, overall, this pay-per-view was not met with great reviews. From fans and writers alike. It just didn't hit well with a lot of people. What were your thoughts on the overall show?
Truthfully, I enjoyed this one more than Survivor Series just because I thought the matches weren't more quality, but there was more build up in the matches and kind of storytelling in the matches. And we got to kind of take in each wrestler's talents versus just like shoving bodies into a ring. It definitely I'm thinking they need a better producer or someone calling the show because there were so many unprofessional snafus on the production side that could have been avoided very easily. It was just like unorganized. Yeah. I got that vibe, but that's nothing on the talent or anything like that. But I didn't hate it. It was just kind of one of those shows that it's not super memorable, but I wasn't bored and I didn't like it because I actually got kind of bored during Survivor Series because it overwhelmed my brain. I don't know. But what did you think of it?
You know what? I think it was so indicative of Southern wrestling, which is not a bad thing. I mean, we've said it before, at this time, WWF was trying to win by flash and pizzazz and personalities and characters, whereas the NWA was staying true to its roots, guys getting in a ring and duking it out. I think my one gripe about this pay-per-view is that the first match on the show went to a time limit draw. The second match, Larry and Barry, was won with some shenanigans. The third match was a DQ. And then the fourth match was what it was. So I'm kind of on those finishes and the way they came about. Otherwise, fine show. Probably don't need to see another Bunkhouse Stampede again, which I don't believe we will. Yeah, not so bad.
I feel like the show would have been better if we had the cowboy with the coffee by the fire.
You know what? We should make the director's cut and just slide him in there.
Please. Like, I feel like that would have added so much to this show.
Yeah. Or he's just sitting there by the entrance the whole time, still at his campfire, some random dude taking his coffee, you know.
Hell yeah. And then at the end, we see who it was that was stealing the coffee, and it's like Dusty with all these cups of coffees around him, like, hey, yeah, get my coffee. Well, Justin, you want to tell us some more?
Wrestle stats. Let's do it. Right now on NWA pay-per-views, Ric Flair has the most matches with 6. He also has the most wins on NWA pay-per-views with 4. Now, the most losses on pay-per-views for NWA, it's a tie at 3 losses each, Barbarian and Bobby Eaton. Rematches went down this week because there were none on this show. So now just 3.77% of matches on NWA pay-per-view are rematches. And there were 3 title matches on this show. So that makes the percentage go up. 52.83% of matches on NWA pay-per-view are title matches. If you like stats like that and a whole lot more, and you want to see them about current modern day wrestling, you can head on over to twitter.com/WrestleStats. What do you got, Michelle?
You can talk to me all day, every day on Twitter at Michelle Tater. We can talk about anything you want. I love talking about wrestling. I do some live tweeting during some shows sometimes because I think I am so funny. And then like I won't get any likes. I'm like, maybe I'm not that funny, but I love to talk about wrestling, football, anything. The Longhorns are #1 right now, baby. So hook them. I need to do my own like separate college football podcast, which I've talked about before because
am I gonna co-host that one too, or
you can just be the B person that's like really dumb and doesn't know what's going on, so I can explain it to you. But you actually, yeah. But you know, these dudes on Twitter, they try to come at me, and then they're like, "Oh snap, she actually knows football," and I'm like, "Yeah, duh." But anyway, yeah, find me at Michelle Tater. If you tweet me 100% of the time, I usually write you back unless you're being weird or creepy. But
sorry, so it was only that one time. I didn't mean what I said. I just, I had to get it out.
I wish you, dude. I've had some creepers over the years, but anyway, tell me what next week's episode is going to be about, Justin.
Okay, so next week we're cheating a little. We're just going to tell you off the top. We're cheating a little bit now, as I mentioned earlier. The WWF scheduled the first ever Royal Rumble for this same night that we just saw the Bunkhouse Stampede. However, the first Royal Rumble was not on pay-per-view. It was on the USA Network. So while it's technically not a pay-per-view, it does begin decades of this legendary event. So we're going to count it. So next week, we're covering Royal Rumble 1988, and we're going to see how that show compares to the one we just watched.
And Justin, I know the Royal Rumble is my favorite WWE pay-per-view. Isn't it yours too?
Yes, it is mine.
Yeah. So we're starting an era. But the question is, Justin, will there be plot holes?
No, but there will be booty holes.
Oh!